People deluded. Now, not really transfers of such, we'll touch on some, but just some general talking points in regards to Arsenal. Let's start off with the first elephant in the room, which is Koscielny people. Now, David Ornstein and people like that are starting to filter in a bit of backdrop and understanding for us. Without going into details, the layman terms of it, or the short of it is clearly there was a disagreement between the length of Koscielny's contract. We all know in 2016 he signed a new deal until 2020, but it's now come out that it was actually until, well, it appears based on what I'm reading, that it was similar to Monreal. Your contract expired this year, but there was an option of another year. That's why in my vids I was saying 2020 because I was sure Koscielny, Giroud and Coquelin signed new deals at the same time, to which they did. It's come out now that more or less from Koscielny's side, he feels he was going to be allowed to leave on the free. The club have invoked his the 1 year clause in his contract, and now he can't go go to Rennes or Lyon or Bordeaux, who have allegedly, Rennes I saw offered him a 3 year deal. Someone's offered him a 2 year deal, maybe with good financial bonuses and a package together with wanting to return to France. I mean, previously Koscielny said I want to do 10 years at Arsenal and go back to France. Admittedly, for the last few years, he's been talking about this every summer. He's been talking about he considered leaving, he considered this and that, and I'm quite tired of it. But it shows you he's got a right to think about that. If he wants to retire in France, he can, and if he feels that the club has backtracked, then he can. But the flip side of that is, where was this energy when you agreed the deal? You agreed an extension until 2020. You was happy at the time in 2016 to take the cash and take the money until then. So why was you quick to invoke that clause? Again, hindsight and foresight are wonderful things, but you should have been smart enough. You've got a contract, you have to honour it. I get both sides. I think he should be allowed to leave. If he wants to leave, cool. I don't agree with not going on tour. I think it's disgraceful from the club captain. But from the other side, some people want Zaha to do that. And to be honest, people, if we was Koscielny, we'd probably do the same thing because we have to force the move. In my opinion, I think if he doesn't leave, clearly the club will come to a resolution. But it was up to me. He's burnt all ties. Give him what he wants and leave. I don't agree with letting him go on a free transfer now because, again, getting him off the wages is all fine and dandy. But the same people saying letting him do that because he's been low and things like that would cry if we let him go for free. We're not a charity. Koscielny's not going to bring in a major fee. Any club that gives us 10 million that's been quoted for him is being silly because on terms of the financial package in his age, you're not getting that back. But Arsenal have the right to demand that. We have to be fair with the club, people. Like I said, if Koscielny wants to move and return with his family to France, he's within his rights to do that. He's been a loyal serviceman to the club. He's done what he needs to do. Clearly, there was talk between him and the club in regards to what they was thinking in the build up to the end of the season. I heard the club actually wanted to offer him a new deal, which is very silly in my opinion. Koscielny shouldn't be given. Shouldn't be given a new deal. He's done wonderful to get over his Achilles injury, but keep it moving. He shouldn't have been given an extension. Now, the only saving grace for me is that if he's not, if we know we didn't need a centre half already, which allegedly we're looking for one in addition to Saliba, we definitely do now. And to be fair, if you're making a 34-year-old central part of your defensive plans, you're going to be in trouble as a club. Now, you've seen reports saying he hasn't been training with the first team for the last few days as well. He informed the club of that he was going to not go on tour, which, I mean, I don't agree with it, but it's not come out of the blue. He's clearly, to be fair to Koscielny, we'll never know the details. Clearly, maybe the club said one thing and going back. Maybe Koscielny said one thing and going back. We'll never know. Either way, I think he's burnt all ties at this club, and I think he should never play again. Let him go. Even if you get $1 million for him, I don't agree with even letting him rot in the 23s and things like that. It don't make no sense in my opinion. Just get rid of the guy, man. But he burnt his ties. You've seen he hasn't been training all week. Apparently he allegedly he's become increasingly discontent since his return in December. Apparently he's been quite upset over the management of his playing schedule and also where he feels the club is moving. Now, at the end of the day, yeah, Koscielny's within it. The only thing I don't agree with is not going on tour. And again, if he wants to force the move, he can do it. So I don't agree with it, but I'm just saying you got to be able to look at things objectively. You can't just have your Arsenal supporter cap on to look at this because then you will just criticise Koscielny, which he deserves. But you've got to understand why a man do these things. If Koscielny is concerned about where the club is going, and like I said at the start, he said that he wanted to complete 10 seasons. If his opinions change, but if he's backtracked quickly, what's been said? Is it Emre's playing style? Does he believe in Emre? Does he believe in this? Because if you look at all the captains Emre listed, for example, Xhaka, he will probably be him or Bellerin or Lacazette. Socrates, Bellerin, and Xhaka would probably be the candidates off the top of my head. None of them scream the captaincy for me, but it'd probably be Xhaka. Ramsey, a new deal was on the table, then taken. Who else has been? Koscielny wants to keep it moving. Cech went back to Chelsea. Obviously, he was retiring, so there's context. All this five captain business, and they're all snaking it. Now, Koscielny doesn't owe us nothing in the same way the club owe him nothing, because yeah, he's at retirement age, but in an ideal world, Koscielny, let's just say we was where we were as a club, Koscielny would get a handshake and told to leave. That's why I don't agree with this loyalty thing necessarily in football. But if he has concerns about where the club's going, he's within his rights to have that, people, because at the end of the day, he's 34. He needs to be looking at the best financial package he can get one last time from football, where he wants to set his family up, not just for football, but for life. And do what he wants to do. He's not he's not a Mavropanos or anything where they're in their 20s, where they've got the energy and the time to see through this rebuild. Realistically, he's got 2 seasons left and he's already declining. He ain't got time to try and be here until Arsenal get back in the top 4. So I don't condone his behaviour, but there's 3 sides to every story. There's the truth, there's Koscielny's side, and there's the club's side. The club, on the basis of wanting to give him a new deal, shows we don't know what we're doing to a degree. Koscielny, like I said, man, by the end of the season, early June, we should have known what a man wanted to do. I do think the statement could have been left as well, because even when you look at Alexis fighting and training, ironically, Koscielny, we knew it happened, but we didn't know it to be fact. I don't think the club statement served any purpose. I feel the club thought it's gonna come out anyways, so let's shoot ourselves in the foot before someone else shoots us. It really didn't help anything, because what does it say? It says he refused to go on tour. It's against club actions. We're disappointed, and we won't be providing any much opinion. That's you might as well have not said anything then, because that doesn't help anything. That just fuels to the fire. I don't know what excuse you could have made, but could have made one. Apparently, there's concerns over the development and readiness of Mavropanos to provide a credible option of the side. Now, one theme is injuries with Mavropanos. He's still not over his groin injury. He had niggling injuries last year. I think he is good, but he's still incredibly raw. You saw his foul against Crystal Palace in the build-up to Bielik's goal. You've seen his red card. He is a very raw player, as you would be coming from Greece to the Premier League and barely played. He's made 7 appearances, forgive me if I'm wrong. It sounds mad, doesn't it, for Arsenal? And how many of them have been 90? Forgive me if I'm wrong. Quite a few, to be fair. It's been cup appearances, but that's not enough to develop. First and foremost, Mavropanos has to stay fit. Like a lot of these players, he has to stay fit and able to play. If he's not able to do that, then nothing's going to happen. He is inexperienced. If he is, well, this season he's probably going to stay, but if he's not going to play substantially, he needs to go out on loan. All these concerns will be here, because you're looking. Eventually, I imagine the club want to be in a position when Saliba's here, this new centre-half comes into the club, Mavropanos provide an option, and obviously maybe a Chambers or something providing these options long-term at centre-half. I'm not too sure. Juninho, the sporting director of Lyons, keeps talking about Fekir's departure, and he said the possibility of him leaving is real, so might see some development in that. Apparently, according to David Ornstein, Hakim Ziyech would welcome a move to Arsenal. The club have analysed the player. However, he's not on our agenda and we won't be making a move. For whatever reason, I'm not too sure. Obviously, Zaha's finished the African Cup of Nations, so rumours are going to intensify for that. We've already known Crystal Palace do not want any of Arsenal's fringe players, so we'll see. Fraser's also been linked with us again in regards to the plan B if Zaha, which it probably won't happen. Of course, I'd love it to happen. Staying on the wingers front, reports out of Brazil and a couple of Twitter people are saying we're linked with Everton Soares now. Forgive me if I'm wrong, he had a decent Copa America, plays for Guillermo. He is a decent player. I'm sure he's a Brazilian under-23 international as well. And apparently Edu could help us tip the balance. I mean, I'm sure he won't cost as much as Zaha. He'd provide a decent amount. I think he's got a decent amount of scoring form of recent. He's obviously Brazilian, so he can take people on. He would give us what we need on that wide area. Guillermo might be easier to negotiate than Crystal Palace, both in terms of a fee and in terms of structured payments. That could all give us money to invest elsewhere. So we'll see how that one develops. Again, that's just paper talk. There's not really much more to say, people, as well. Really and truly, apart from apparently Arsenal want 10 million for Koscielny. Apparently he's considering buying out his contract, his 90k a week contract. So we'll see how it goes. Apparently he, like I said at the beginning, he told us on Wednesday that he will not be going on tour. So we'll see what it is, man. he has to be stripped of captaincy. Apparently, there's no talk of that yet. I mean, because you've got to set a precedent. Unai Emery, you've got to set a precedent because you're new to this job, and I'm sure there are question marks over the players, but I'm sure there's question marks over him internally. The fans are doing it already, so the fact the players must be. If Koscielny gets away with, obviously that you can resolve conflict, but if Koscielny gets away with this and he's still captain, I'm not saying other players are bad man are gonna do things, but it sets a bad precedent on what other players can do and what they can carry on with, because you've got to make a statement. I feel Koscielny's got to be stripped. He can never play for this club again, and Arsenal are going to be at loggerheads because on one hand, I wouldn't pay 10 million for him. So is he going to move? But you've got to come to a resolution, really and truly. I might be dreaming a bit, but potentially if he's going to be here for a year and he wants to return to France, could we take Saliba back a year early, let him go to Saint Etienne and things for the season on a loan and just let him go when his contract thingy ends? That doesn't make no sense, because if you look at it from Koscielny's point of view, he would be an idiot to accept what I've just said, because he would be going on loan. Yeah, he could agree in January a deal with Bordeaux, but he'd only be at Bordeaux for a year, and by then his contract at Arsenal would finish. He'd be 35 with no long-term plans, and if he did have a woeful season at Saint Etienne, would these offers that allegedly are on the table right now, would they be here? Would they be there come again? So yeah, man. It really makes me think. I know we needed a centre half, even with before Koscielny's nonsense. With Koscielny's nonsense, the only saving grace is that it intensifies rumours. And for me, should never ever play for this club again. He's burnt all bridges, really. For me, like I said, He's got to get rid of him, because if he doesn't, people are going to be looking around and thinking, if you let your captain behave like that and stuff like that, then what can I get away with? Is there really authority here? And again, football is not ruled by an iron fist, but these things happen. It doesn't matter whether you're doing this or you give a top player 300 bags a week. 300 bags a week. Other players are going to be like, hold on, you're not giving me 300 bags, or if you're not going to give me 300 bags, I want this, because clearly there's money. Everything has a snowball effect. So if he can get away with Koscielny, the club captain, meant to be one of the most senior players, what does this set to the young players that, for instance, I'm not saying they'll carry on, but Joe Willett, Eddie, Nelson, Emil, 4 players who've just been promoted to the first team. If your captain's acting like this, what does that tell you? So, and I know Emery's still fighting to win everybody, and I think everybody rides for him, but I know he's still fighting for the dressing room. He's got a lot to consider and think about, really and truly. So yeah, it's a bit of a slow day. There's no point talking about the obvious rumours, so I thought I'd talk about some talking points and just offer more opinions on Koscielny, and that some of the details are filtering out. We'll never truly know, but for now, people, DG, I'm out. Thank you for watching and rocking as usual. Comment, subscribe, like, share it for me. I'm out.